This is not a story about extinction. It is about a planet's early warning system, and the data showing it is now screaming. 50 years ago, in 1970, wildlife populations were relatively stable. Today, the Living Planet Index from the World Wildlife Fund tracks an average 68% collapse across 4,483 species, a decline of more than 2/3 in just one lifetime. The World Wildlife Fund's 2020 report analyzed population trends in mammals, birds, fish, reptiles, and amphibians across the globe. The pattern is uniform. It is not limited to remote rainforests or polar ice caps. It is everywhere. This is not a story about deforestation or poaching, though those factors matter. This is a story about a hidden mechanism that amplifies every existing threat: climate change. The Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change released their 6th assessment report in 2022. The synthesis from Working Group 2 is blunt. Up to 1 million species now face extinction due to climate change alone. Not tomorrow, right now. The report combined peer-reviewed studies from every continent using climate models and observational data. The conclusion: climate change is already affecting every inhabited region across the globe. Human influence is driving unprecedented changes in weather and climate extremes. The biodiversity crisis and the climate crisis are not separate problems. They are the same problem, measured at different scales. But here is the mechanism that connects them. Species cannot adapt to a shifting climate. They cannot move fast enough. A meta-analysis by Camille Parmesan in 2006 analyzed patterns across hundreds of species. The finding is that species are shifting their ranges poleward at an average rate of 6.1 kilometers per decade and moving upward in elevation toward the poles. The tropical and temperate species that define ecosystems are migrating toward cooler latitudes. But not all habitats can move. Forests cannot migrate. Coral reefs cannot migrate. Mountain species run out of mountain. The result is an ecological squeeze that pushes populations into smaller ranges with fewer resources. This is not just about temperature, it is about timing. Spring arrives earlier now, insects hatch sooner. Birds that migrate thousands of kilometers rely on precise timing to match their arrival with food sources. When spring shifts forward, migration does not. The mismatch means parents arrive after peak insect abundance has passed. The result is fewer offspring, smaller populations, a slow, compounding decline. The mechanisms multiply. Ocean acidification from carbon dioxide absorption dissolves the shells of plankton at the base of marine food webs. Warmer waters force fish species to abandon traditional spawning grounds. Extreme weather events destroy entire nesting seasons for reptiles. Drought kills trees that have survived for centuries. Each factor alone would stress ecosystems. Together, they create a feedback loop where climate stress makes every other threat more lethal. Some critics argue that climate change is not the primary driver. They say that habitat loss, pollution, and overexploitation deserve more attention. A 2008 study by Brook and colleagues suggested habitat fragmentation is a more immediate threat than climate change. The criticism has merit on the surface. Deforestation destroys habitat directly. Overfishing collapses stocks. But this misses the fundamental nature of climate change as a stress multiplier. The Steelman argument acknowledges that habitat loss is catastrophic, but climate change does not replace habitat loss as a threat. It makes habitat loss irreversible. Forests cleared for agriculture can be regrown, but if the climate shifts so that those forests can no longer survive in that region, restoration becomes impossible. Climate change removes the option of recovery. It is a ratchet that only tightens. The data shows this clearly. Species in protected habitats are still declining. Populations in national parks, marine reserves, and wildlife corridors show the same downward trend as unprotected areas. Why? Because climate stress crosses boundaries. A protected forest cannot stop its temperatures from rising 3 degrees. A marine reserve cannot prevent ocean acidification. Consider the mechanics of extinction. A species needs 3 things: suitable habitat, viable populations, and genetic diversity. Climate change attacks all 3. Range shifts reduce suitable habitat by shrinking the area where conditions remain stable. Small, isolated populations lose genetic diversity through inbreeding. Extreme weather events can wipe out entire local populations in a single season. The process is not gradual, it is punctuated. One bad year can erase decades of slow decline. The IPCC report synthesizes evidence from observational studies, climate models, and field research. The methodologies converge. Paleontologists show that current extinction rates are 100 to 1,000 times higher than the background rate of extinction. Geneticists track declining diversity in fragmented populations. Ecologists document range shifts and mismatches in timing. All lines of evidence point to the same conclusion. Climate change is now a primary evolutionary pressure on life on Earth. What does this mean for the future? The One Planet Summit in 2021 committed to protecting 30% of Earth's land and oceans by 2030. But protection from direct destruction does not solve the climate threat. A protected area that becomes too hot or too dry ceases to function as a refuge. Conservation in the 21st century requires managing climate corridors, assisted migration, and genetic rescue. The strategies are emerging, but the timescale is brutal. Evolutionary adaptation takes thousands of years. Climate change is happening over decades. Most species cannot evolve fast enough to track their shifting climate. Those that can tend to be pests, weeds, and generalists that thrive in disturbed environments. The result is a planetary homogenization, fewer species, less diversity, more simplified ecosystems dominated by a few resilient survivors. We are trading complexity for resilience. The scientific consensus is not a matter of opinion. It is a convergence of independent measurements. The IPCC assessment combines climate modeling with biological observations. The Living Planet Index tracks population trends directly. Parmesan's meta-analysis documents range shifts. These are 3 different approaches from 3 different research groups asking 3 different questions. They arrive at the same place. The warning from the coal mines was simple. Canaries died. Miners evacuated. The warning from the planet is more complex. The canaries are not dying one by one. They are shrinking, moving, and vanishing across entire ecosystems. The data says we have lost 2/3 of wildlife populations in 50 years. The data says 1 million species are at risk. The data says the mechanism is already active. This is not a prediction. It is a measurement of what has already happened. The numbers from the Living Planet report are real. The range shifts documented by Parmesan are real. The IPCC synthesis is built on decades of peer-reviewed research. The only variable that remains uncertain is how much worse it becomes. The planet's early warning system is not a metaphor. It is a statistical reality measured across thousands of species and decades of data. The question is not whether the signal is real. The question is whether we act on it. If this changed how you think about biodiversity loss, hit subscribe and drop a comment below. I will see you in the next one.